ChatGPT Plus is free for college students through May. Here's the thing. You've got a lot to do between now and then. Studying for finals, writing papers, trying to keep your life on track, and ChatGPT can help with all of it. It can quiz you for your econ exam, make a study guide from your French notes, plan out your meals and study breaks. It can get really specific on how you like to learn. It can even help you come up with ways to stop procrastinating. So from now until summer break, take advantage of all the ways ChatGPT can make your life easier. Restrictions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Commercial Insurance. Business owners, meet Progressive Insurance. They make it easy to get discounts on commercial auto insurance and find coverages to grow with your business. Quote in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Coverage provided and serviced by affiliated and third-party insurers. Discounts and coverage selections not available in all states or situations.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Lovely and happy Friday. It is officially patio season and I'm outside. Like, if you're ever wondering where's Mehak, catch me outside on a patio these days with my friends, by myself, on a date maybe, but mostly just wearing my cute little outfits that have been sitting in my closet for far too long. Last week's episode was a really honest and vulnerable conversation. I had Srijan McKenna to talk about misogyny. We talked about double standards. And we also talked about how both of these things are not cultural, but they are structural. And I really applaud Srijan's courage and bravery to talk about his own personal experiences that he went through growing up. Today's episode, we are switching gears. Today's topic is really going to focus on therapy. And I have a really important and special guest on today. And I will do her intro in a little bit, but I want to kind of share my own personal story about therapy. I always knew therapy was really valuable. Like, I saw it help a lot of people, but I didn't officially start going till almost about 2.5 years ago. And I decided it was finally time for me to go to therapy because I ended my relationship and I truly hit rock bottom. That relationship was a complete emotional whiplash, and I no longer felt like I had the tools to navigate on how to move forward. And when I was trying to find a therapist, I was very adamant about finding someone that was South Asian because I wanted to talk to someone that would understand generational trauma. I wanted to talk to someone that would understand the nuances of living a life outside of the expectations that you were raised with. And oh my God, I love my therapist. I love her so much. I see her every Friday. But yeah, that is my journey with therapy. We are still going strong. And today's guest, her name is Samar Haroon. It's funny. So I've known her for almost I would say 12 years. I'll get in the story of how we met, but this is probably the first time I'm having a proper conversation with her. We met in Pakistan, in Karachi, during high school. And fast forward to today, she is now a licensed marriage and family therapist, doing really powerful work helping BIPOC folks unpack trauma, navigate love, and rewire the patterns that we have inherited. She's also the clinical director and founder of Therapy in Color, which is a dedicated team of South Asian psychotherapists who are really passionate about providing specialized support for the BIPOC and South Asian community. Samar, welcome to Lovely. How are you?
I'm good. Mehak, you stalked me? I was like, how does she know so much? I haven't spoken to her in forever.
I truly do feel like a creep because we have each other on social media. And I feel like I know what your life is about. You've probably seen some of my stuff. But like I said, we've never really sat down and had a proper conversation. So let's kind of rewind to when we met. And let's tag team this, right? Because I feel like it's a little bit of a blur for me. What I remember is around the age of 15, 16, in Pakistan, we went to all girls school. I think they really prided themselves in, we have to show up to school looking the ugliest we've ever looked. We could not wear makeup. We could not do our hair the way we wanted to do. And we had these like white and maroon uniforms. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. I remember what was it, the Kajal scandal of 2006, where we're all standing in line and then the teacher has like lotion and a napkin and she's just like, rub it off right now. And we're all like silently, everyone's like exiting the line to like take off all their like minimal makeup, no lipstick, no gloss, just a bunch of Kajal. Because I remember that happened to you too.
That was so degrading. Every morning, we had to stand in a line and they would inspect our faces. And if you had eyeliner on, they would be like, go wash it off. And they had like that dirty ass soap that you had to wash your face with. What do you remember about your time from city school? Anything sticks out?
Oh my God, from city school? Like, it's such a simple place to make it. Like, it was traumatic in so many ways, right? It just was. But I will say it was so blissfully unique. I have a lot of gratitude for that time too. Like, I know for you, it's like, oh, that ugly ass white maroon uniform we used to wear with the, like a huge ass, like 5-foot dupatta. And I was like, yeah, but when I left, I missed it. I had a massive crisis after I left school because it was just so like, you're part of this world and it's so unique because when you come to the Americas, like it's different. And the difference is I was also born here just like you, right? Like we both were born here in the Americas.
I was born in Pakistan.
Damn, but you left and then you came back and then you left. And I left and came back. So I had like a 3-way trajectory with that. So when I compare my life to everyone here, and then I'm like, wow, I had such a different life experience that no one can relate to. But I'm kind of glad that no one can because then it's like, I have a life experience that isn't mirrored. It is different and it adds quality. So even though, yes, got yelled at by teachers and the whole makeup thing, like I once got hit in the face by a ball because I used to play basketball and it split my lip. And the teacher thought I was wearing lipstick. And then she chased me around being like, get that lipstick off. I was like, it's blood. I really love to Target. And I think you could relate to that for sure.
Even looking back, like, it's all fun and jokes when you're like, oh my God, like that was so horrible that we had to go through that. But I think one of the things that I really still think about from my experience in city school is girlhood. Like, I got to make so many genuine friendships and really spent a lot of amazing time with girls and just being girls, and navigating the ups and downs of life. And again, we're sitting here because we met through that experience.
Picture this. You're starting your healing journey. You want to go see a therapist, but when you try to book one, they only have openings in the middle of your workday. You're working 9 to 5. When do you have the time to go? Well, I'm here to tell you that you don't have to settle anymore. So when it comes to finding the right doctor with ZocDoc, you've got options. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality, in-network doctors and click to instantly book an appointment. Appointments made through ZocDoc also happen fast, typically within 24 to 72 hours of booking. You can even score same-day appointments. Stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/lovely to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/lovely, ZocDoc.com/lovely.
To get into something else, you work with so many people who are navigating identity, especially those raised between cultures. And you mentioned it too, that you've moved around a lot. You've had to kind of, explore different cultures. I want to know, what is your connection to immigrant identity and what was your upbringing like?
This is a fun question, also a very complex question because I don't think I've ever talked about this. And the reason I've never talked about this is I've always thought at some point this would come up at some place and at some area. Because if you've seen my TikToks and you know how I film, No one knows whether I'm married. No one knows if I have children. Most people don't know how old I am either. And the reason I've kept that very private is because of the work that I do with my clients, to be like this like blank slate, because that's how my training was. So this is really new territory for me to be like, I have to talk about this. Like, what do I talk about that's not like still relatable, but also not very personal? But when you talk about the identity portion of being an immigrant and being, third culture or bicultural, for me, the experience I shifted 2 to 3 times with identity myself, but that's not the reason why I became a therapist, interestingly enough, or even chose the path that I went down. I thought it would be a full circle moment, but it never did come about. It was just like its own shit. But for me, if you were to ask me, I was born in New York City. I lived there until 9/11 happened. And then my mom was like, oh, we're done. I was like, we are done. She was like, I'm not risking my family's safety, because something that's happening within the Americas, especially within the United States, that you're sensing and seeing right now, was happening back there too. And brown people, whether you were Muslim, whether you were Hindu, whether you were Sikh at that time, if you looked a certain way, you were targeted. And it was happening in our community. And my mom was like, I'm not going to wait for this. We're not doing this. I'm not waiting for something to happen to make us make that shift. So she moved all of us back to Pakistan. And that was the first culture shock, because I didn't go to an all-girls school. I actually went to PS Chapter, which was a co-ed school. And now I'm like a kid with like a semi-Brooklyn accent coming into this like co-ed school with uniforms and all of that. And it was a really unique crisis for like a 6 to 8-year-old coming in. And you don't understand, because everything that you have learned is obsolete in an environment that doesn't mirror the United States. So for me now, it's like, oh, okay, what are we doing? And it wasn't like a language barrier. I spoke Urdu at that time. I was pretty good at that. And I spoke English, but it was my demeanor, right? Culture impacts how you respond and react to your environment. And the way I would do it was not homogenous with what we were seeing at school, right? It was just such a disconnect. So then I'm othered, and these are these people, and I am trying to socially learn how to connect with my peers, which I think was delayed by many years. Like, I think I struggled in school because I didn't know how to relate to kids my own age. And the only people I could relate to was adults. So I would be like, kids would be hanging out, I would go hang out with the teachers and stuff like that. Because the immigrant experience, if you were to inverse that here, I would assume something similar would happen too. Like, either there's a language difference, there's a cultural difference, there's a separation. And it's distinct by your behavior, by how you speak.
I feel so seen, because similar to you, so I was born in Pakistan. We moved to Texas when I was 5 or 6. And then stayed there till like 9/11 happened. We passed it. But then I'm in Toronto. We moved to Canada, and everyone still asks me, why are you here? Why did you move? I'm like, well, first of all, I was 13. I didn't have a say in moving, but my parents wanted to move because 9/11 happened. And just like you said, when you look a certain way, you were targeted. Like in middle school, I remember getting bullied, and people would say, are you bin Laden's daughter? It's a very real thing that people go through.
So sorry. What the hell?
I was the only brown girl in my middle school. So, it was an easy target. Then when we moved to Canada, my dad is like, psych, time for more character development. We're actually not staying here. We're going to Pakistan. So when I went there, I didn't know how to connect to some of the people, because they would assume that I'm being too like Western. And then I got bullied again.
I remember that. I could see it happening. So that part that you talk about girlhood is a very opposite experience for me now. Now it changes up. For me at that time, what you saw with, being targeted for being different, or because you weren't warm and open or as culturally versed at that time with what your school or the girls in school needed for you, it immediately othered. I wouldn't say it was bullying, because first of all, I was tall as hell. Nobody could actually bully me. But it was so interesting. There was so much happening in my life. And as a kid, like, I didn't go to therapy. I didn't know how to cope. I was coping from this transition that wasn't stopping. right? So I went to a co-ed school and I went to an all-girls school because all of a sudden I have tits and like my mom's like, no.
What did you see in your household? So you mentioned that your mom moved you. Were your parents like together? Did they separate? Like, what did you see growing up in terms of that relationship?
That's so funny you're asking all these questions. My mom's gonna kick my ass. So actually, no, my mom and my father separated before I was born. So that was another interesting thing. So I was also from like a broken home, you could say, but also like my grandfather was like my father figure my whole life. And I called him dad too. So, but then my mom married around the time 9/11 also happened. So then we transitioned into my stepfamily's house. And that was a very traditional household. So I went from like listening to Madonna and Savage Garden in my mom's car to like, we can't watch TV anymore. Then I'm in this new household where the language is different because they were Sindhi. They're exceptionally traditional and religious. And everything that I've known has been taken away. My mom went through an extremely hyper-religious phase, which actually is one of my other specialities where I work with people who have religious extremism and work with cults. Really good work, really fun stuff.
Wow. The key part is like we didn't have the language and we sometimes still don't have the language. That's why we do need to speak to someone who's a professional that can help us understand what are the emotions that we're feeling and what does it tie it back to so it's not unresolved. Big reason why I started therapy is, of course, I was trying to deal with a breakup, but I also didn't want to let the toxicness of my relationship spill into when I decide to have a family. But speaking of relationships, girl, are you engaged or are you married? But I overheard you say that you're married. Do you have kids too?
No, I don't have
Oh,
kids.
okay. I thought I heard that. Okay, wait. Okay, so I've seen pictures. Obviously, you said Summer is spicy now. Tell me about your relationship. What's the status? How did you guys meet?
So I got married last year. And it was like, so I think the pictures you recently saw was like, that was our 1 year anniversary, basically. And it was just like me, him, and like our friend who was there the night we met. And it was just very low key. We were just like, let's just get it done with because we just have like so many things about our lives intertwined and paperwork, like house related things and like assets relating things. We just also wanted to like insurance related things, just get on the same page with that. And also we like each other, love each other, however you want to call it.
Big lies.
That's so
Yeah.
totally an afterthought.
Oh, yeah.
But I met my husband. And it sounds so weird to say that. Brother, I met my husband in 2019. This is a horrible story. It was Ramzan. I was fasting and then I opened my fast and I was chilling in LA and my friend Teresa was like, oh my God, she broke up with someone. And she's like, I need to go out. And I was like, girl, I just ate like 10 pounds of food. And I was just like, okay, let's go. And she's like, let's go to this pool hall. And I was like, okay. So I drove from Los Feliz to Santa Monica. And if anybody's from like California and knows LA, that's like a 50-minute drive. I made that drive and I picked her up. And I was like, let's go. And then we got there and then there's like this group of 4 guys and this girl at a table. And obviously like you're scanning the room. So then me and my friend are just like fucking around at the pool table. We're just like being silly because I don't know how to play pool. She doesn't know how to play pool. I don't understand why we're here. And we're drinking water because I didn't drink at that time. And then all of a sudden these 2 guys approach us and they're like, oh, like, do you want to play a game? And I'm like, okay. And I was like, whatever. And then they buy beer. And then my husband really chugged a beer. And I was like, ew. I was like, what are you doing? And then I was like, oh, what do you do? And he's like, startup.
Of course. In Santa Monica. Of course yeah.
And I was like, well, what do you do at the start? He's a programmer. And he was just so quiet. And I was like, you're so annoying. Me and my friend were like playing with him and his friend, like pool, we were just trying. Then we switched teams and then I was on my husband's team. And then there was kind of like oh, okay. And then we like got a few like balls in a row and then we were high-fiving. And then my friend was furious at that time because she was like in a breakup and she was not vibing with our vibe.
She was like, this was my night. I was supposed to meet someone, not you.
Yeah, she was like, you stupid bitch. And I was like, fair enough. She actually held on to that for quite some time. We're normal now. She felt like I abandoned her. But she's the one who got us married too, which is crazy. So then that night, he paid for the games that we played. And I was like, well, I'm hungry. Like, let's go and like grab something to eat. And then all 4 of us, me and my friend and him and his friend, we went to this diner. We ate. His friend complained about his relationship for like 2 hours, which made my husband seem really mature because he was just quiet and very like, whatever. And then I was like, okay, bye. And then we walked away and he turned around. He's like, hey, can I get your number? And I was like, no, but you can have my Instagram. And I was like, okay. And it was done. Wow, that's like a first, like in person. Because at that time I was like dating like it was nobody's business. I was on all the apps. I had like an average like 3-date minimum a week. So it was like really interesting. And by the next day, he hadn't texted me and it was 2 p.m. and I was like, ew, loser. And I was like, my stomach was upset. Such a good pickup line. I was like, oh my God, like my stomach is upset from the food last night. Like, is your stomach upset? And then he was like, no, but do you want to go for ice cream on Sunday? And I was like, yeah, okay, we could do that. And which is really funny, our anniversary from the date we went on our first date is on Monday.
What a cute, cute story. I love listening about how people met, how when you meet a total stranger, you never know what could turn out to be. And here you are.
I live with him now.
Ew, why would a man be here? Why would a man be here? Oh my goodness. And also, I've seen pictures. He's not Pakistani, right?
Oh no, God.
Yeah, so it's an interracial couple.
It is an interracial relationship, which is really, really complex in so many other ways. Like he is Swedish and Canadian. He's from Newfoundland and his family's from Grand Bank, but his mom is Swedish.
Girl, I know Newfies. Yeah, they're such good people, such good people. Were you scared to bring him home?
Interesting question. So at this point in time, a few things have happened. I've dated a few people and it hasn't worked out, and I'm going into a further like mental crisis. And when I met him, I was actually contemplating about going back to Pakistan. I wanted to leave. I was kind of like done with America.
Okay, for what?
Just family, to be closer to my family. I missed my friends. I missed the culture. I missed the environment. And I know it seems so different from what I'm saying, but it's a place where my heart bleeds a lot. Like there's like a very specific sadness I carry after I left Pakistan, and I still feel it even now. And I remember like I went back. So if I met him in May, in December, I was in Pakistan for like 2 weddings, right? And one of my best friends, Fahad, was like, Samar, it's like you've been gone so long. He's like, just come back home now. He's like, you have nothing there. He's like, you don't have the kind of connections and whatnot. Like, come back here. And if you want to get married or like start work here, he's like, just no point in you staying there anymore. And I felt it. I really felt it in my soul because I just felt like the way I was also like dating, because dating is a game of numbers. And as a therapist, I also say this. In LA, making friends is one of the hardest things. It is one of the hardest things because it's very industry oriented, and I'm not part of the industry. I'm part of the academic psychotherapy, this entire community that is predominantly white, predominantly exceptionally wealthy, and they're 10 to 15 years older than I am. I was the youngest therapist at my internship site. I was 23 when I became a therapist. This is all I've ever known. Isn't that crazy?
Parents of twins, if you're familiar with far-off drop-offs...
Dad, stop, right here.
Or get DMs about what's for dinner, you may be experiencing tween milestones. For your son or daughter, these can start at age 9. HPV vaccination, a type of cancer prevention against certain HPV-related cancers, can start then too.
For most, HPV clears on its own. But for those who don't clear the virus, it can cause certain cancers later in life.
Embrace this phase. Help protect them in the next.
Ask their doctor today about HPV vaccination. Brought to you by Merck.
That moment when you realize your skincare is actually working. That's Rodan & Fields, the #1 female dermatologist-founded skincare brand in the U.S. Designed by 2 dermatologists who don't just know women's skin, they know how to formulate for it. Rodan & Fields, love what you see. Tap the banner or visit rodanandfields.com/Spotify to get your exclusive welcome offer.
You're a licensed marriage and family therapist. I want to know, how did you want to be a therapist and why this specific space?
So it's not a very glamorous answer. It's not like oh my God, I wanted to help people and I just want to make the world a better place. Nah. I would love that to be a part of the answer. It isn't, unfortunately. The answer starts with my position in life became one of support. I just became that person that people would go to to ask for advice and to avoid getting their asses whooped. And this was also a role I played inside my family. I was a big emotional support. And for me, I just needed emotional support. And the inverse I became everyone's emotional support. So when I looked at that part, I was like, well, I guess a therapist would make sense. Like, I guess I'm already doing all of this. Like, maybe this is a career path for me. Psychiatry originally because everybody wanted me to be a doctor because, brown parents and pride. But I didn't want to touch anyone and I didn't want to go to school for 11 years. So then I was like, maybe just becoming a psychologist and getting my PhD or getting my master's would be really good. And that's how I went down that road. And then one of the things that I really connected with was also like, I just really like knowing about people. Like, I'm nosy as hell. Like, that auntie gene is so embedded in my soul of wanting to know shit. Oh my God. Like, my sessions even start with, they're like, I have to tell you something. I was like, oh my God, girl, what's the tea? I was like, let's get into it.
You're like, I was built for this. This is my Super Bowl.
I was like, this is what I needed. This is feeding my soul. But that's the reality of it. I didn't fall into it. It was a very conscious choice. And then with marital and family therapy, that was just like one of the program names that you just fall under. Marital and family therapists and clinical psychotherapists are kind of like almost like identical, but we have more of a concentration with like working with families and couples. The same shit, different toilet seat, to be quite honest. It's not that nuanced, I would say. So that's how I fell into that and made that as an active choice.
What are some of the things, as much as you can share, what are some of the things that you see people have to navigate and the nuances of that? Like, what are people fighting about? What are they trying to solve in their marriages and relationships?
There are a few things here. So primarily, if you're asking me what the trend is right now in therapy, so the trend is there's a lot of generational trauma. I cannot tell you that from just that, I've had to branch out to two new nuanced forms of therapy to help my clients because it's like, oh, this is what happened in my life. I don't know how to cope with it. I have all these horrible behaviors. I can't forgive my parents. I don't know how to move on. My life is stagnant. So I'm working on the generational trauma piece the most. And it's not as much as giving people coping skills initially. It's going in and figuring out the root causes and then dismantling that enough that they can formulate an understanding of what they want out of life and how to get there. And really, really work on the trauma portion. And that's the bigger theme. But there's subtopics to those themes. So one of the things that I think you'd relate to is like, this is a time period where I've seen dating be the worst it has. I've seen the most intellectual, successful women have the hardest time to want to date. And people are going on dates later in life. They're having sex at a later point in their life. And there is a social stagnation that's starting to develop out of fear and out of the culture. And that is, I think, also like, I would say 80% of my work is working with people. It's like, well, I'm a 25-year-old Desi girl, or I'm a 25-year-old like Middle Eastern girl. And I've never been on a date. I've never been kissed. I've never had sex. And I can't navigate this space because it makes no sense to me. And my fear is immobilizing me. And then they're kind of like, well, maybe I should just get an arranged marriage. And then it's like, okay, if that's what you want, we can do that. And then you explore that. And then it goes completely against the identity they've created of being the most educated, the most hardworking. And then they're in this dating field where the culture is so horribly, I feel like the word toxic is overused. So I'm going to actually explain it a little bit. I have never seen people, guys and girls, hate each other as they do right now.
Why does that happen?
So once the Me Too movement happened, and the Me Too movement had to happen, right? There was no way as a society we could escape it. But there was a consequence that was paid of a movement like that. What it did was it started creating fear among men here. Men were like, I can't approach a girl. She's going to say that I tried to grape her, right? Okay, now they're not progressing in the way that most men have, right? Where it's like going through the cycles of rejection. In the 90s, when you were in a bar in LA, like 70 guys would come up and hit on you and it would be fine and they'd move on to the next one and it wasn't such an issue. Now, one rejection is such a blow to the ego. It can't be tolerated because the fear of not being labeled or being targeted became even bigger, right? And here's where the incel movement really started to take shape. They started to come in and being like, well, like we haven't done anything and we're good guys and we deserve this because we're just men and why can't that be enough? So that started happening. The inverse of that was Me Too movement also started creating a lot of fear in the environment with women, with consent, with understanding what it was. It was the first time they were starting to not be like, oh yeah, that guy touched my butt, and be like, oh my God, that guy touched my butt. And holding people accountable also started isolating women. It's a fucked up situation. I don't know how else to tell you this, but it was a culturally significant moment that started shaping the way the next generation started to date and identify how to be with one another. And it started getting really complex. Guys stopped putting themselves out there due to fear of rejection. Women started becoming more fearful of their safety. Combine both of that, ego, fear, we're in a shit show. Now, past that, right? Let's go 10 years down the line from that. Now we're in a place where women are kind of like, well, I don't really need a provider. I have a job and a degree, and I don't really need much from a man traditionally in terms of what they could offer. The man, or men in this case, never evolved their ideology from being a provider and started feeling obsolete. Second hit to the ego, right? And that's where entitlement started to come in. It's like, why can't I just be good enough as a person? And it's like, well, women can do so much for themselves. Can you provide the emotional support of it? And they're like, what do you mean the emotional support of it? And the incel movement started to drive more fire into it. They're like, you're a guy, you're a provider. Let's go traditional. These girls shouldn't be like this. Like, we can do this. But any girls who want us to provide for them are gold diggers. Everyone is sus of one another now. That is what it is. It is the battles of the ego. It is also battle of the relevance. As a woman, it's like, what can you provide for me? And it's like, well, I'm not going to provide for you because you're going to try to take advantage of me. And then guys are kind of like, and you're a slut if you slept with anyone and you're above the age of 25. And I'm just like, this is the culture we're up against. And it's crazy because how am I supposed to make women feel safe?
I've never thought about it in that way. And I think you kind of putting a name to it, which is like, this was a significant moment in history, this movement that happened. It's really making sense. But I guess, and you're right, you know, like I am a hopeless romantic. But like I said, I'm also a product of my generation, raised by women who had to survive and not thrive. But now we're in this environment where we make our own money. We can do things on our own. We have genuine friendships that fills our cups and we want to thrive. We want better for ourselves as women. So not only is it unlearning that survival mode while trying to receive love without losing myself. And I think a lot of women want connection. I want connection. I want someone to hold me while I rest. But I also want someone in a way that doesn't make me come across as weak too, like, oh, like you need a man. You know what I mean? I don't need a man. I want a man. But it's so hard to find someone in today's generation that is able to give that to you and able to receive it too, because the ego is a really big thing that's so fragile today for men.
Absolutely. And these people aren't having the appropriate experiences at the stages. I know as they see girls, like, I've never kissed someone, I haven't fucked anyone in like years of my life, right? I know it doesn't make sense for us culturally, but these are sexual milestones that at some point we have to meet if we're not trying to go back to us. And back isn't bad. Back can also be good. People have healthy relationships. But when you don't meet these milestones, it creates frustration in a generation. It creates barriers to communication. See, that social part that I keep talking about is social stagnation, where now I can't connect with you because I feel like a teenager who's never held hands, never went on a date. And I'm so in my head about it because I feel behind on life. And these movies and these TV shows and Bollywood is telling me something completely different. And there's too much information and it makes no sense. And the men are kind of like, she's going to call me a rapist. She's after my money. Oh, why does that girl not like me? I bought her a drink. Like, bitch. And then it fuels that hatred. We as women have also shut down any possibility of flirting because everything is creepy now. Like nobody can accept the flirt. If a guy comes up to you and at a bar and is like, oh, can I buy you a drink? You're really pretty. It's like, oh my God, get away from me. It is so innate and intrinsic and automatic that, like I said, it's a social thing that we're not learning to be like, oh, wow, thank you. Like, you know, and having a conversation and making eye contact and smiling. When I'm working with my female clients and sometimes my male clients, I have to talk. I was like, if you like someone, it's okay. But it's like, oh my God, isn't that creepy? If I'm like out at a bar and this guy hits on me, isn't that like creepy? Like, is he trying to take advantage of me because I'm like lower inhibition? And it's like everyone in their head is creating these protective defense mechanisms that's keeping them lonely. So now therapists like us have to like even re-educate how much shit there is on social media that is ruining their lives.
Totally. And I think it has positive upsides and negative downsides. Positive upsides in the way I know you create content. There's a lot of other therapists, professionals, and even people just talking about their experiences, which people are able to relate to and take some genuine advice. But then the downside is there is so much advice. And then you have, the mentality of like, you don't need to be attracted to your man. You don't need to do this. He just needs to have a wallet, like a tick wallet. But girl, that is not having a fulfilling life. Like don't you want a partner that is your best friend? Do you not want a partner that you are attracted to? Do you not want a partner that can mentally and physically and emotionally like stimulate you and intellectually too? So I totally get where you are coming from. So let's go back to, we are in this generation where both parties are, there's a fear, right? If I approach and I approach, this is what's going to happen. I have two questions for you. Do you work more with women or men?
I would say primarily more women, but I do have quite a few male clients too. I would say it would be like a 70-30 split.
I see. And is there like a special way that like, is there a different type of therapy you use with your clients to help them navigate all of the specialties that you have?
I think it's not more about like different, yes, like your gender plays a role in a little bit of how I approach it, but it's primarily your ideology and your personality where I morph.
Yeah. No, my therapist does that too, but I love her for it, That's a really good point, because sometimes I have this conversation with my friends and they're like, one of my really good friend, he's like, listen, I understand the benefits of therapy, but then I also think that there are so many narcissists sitting in therapy and their therapists are like, yep, you were right. You have no fault in this. So like, that's refreshing to hear that you're holding up a mirror and you're telling people to take accountability for their actions, because that's the only way they're going to get better. And you talk about psychodynamic psychotherapy. What is that?
So if CBT is like, let me give you behavioral coping skills like journaling, deep breathing, rewriting your negative thoughts. Psychodynamic psychotherapy is basically a very in-depth form of therapy. I'll give you my spiel real quick. So basically, what that does is that we look at the root causes to a lot of your problems, your transitions, your phase of life issues, your depression, your anxiety, whatever it is. I'm not coming in to just manage your symptom. Of course, I will do that. My job is to understand why this is happening in the first place. Why are you in the position that you are? And I have to look at the way you think, the way you act, the way you emote, the way you make decisions, and your past. Give it all respect to have a proper understanding of you, and then go in with a treatment plan to actually work on the roadblocks that are preventing you from getting to where you need to be. My clients are very smart. None of the people I've ever worked with are not smart. Like I don't know how this happens, but every single client I've worked with is so intelligent, because they come in and they're like, I know what's wrong. I know I need to do this. Why can't I do this? And I was like, exactly. There's a blockade in your mind that we have to get past to understand what is preventing you from doing the thing you know what to do. You know yelling at someone isn't right. You know being manipulative and toxic is not a good thing. But if you're reaching for these things, there's a disconnect taking place between what you're wanting and what you're doing. And that resolution in between is where I come in and undo a lot of that. And I'm not going to lie, like psychodynamic psychotherapy is intense work. It's like the kind of work where I have seen my clients on average for a year and a half. And that's on a weekly basis. See my clients more than I see like my family members sometimes. But that's what it is. That's the work. It's the in-depth work that dismantles the cognitive structure you've created that's holding you back outside of coping techniques. It's rewriting your programming book. That's what I come in and do.
So fascinating. I also read somewhere that you have like a sexual anxiety support group. Like, what is it? Can you like walk me through that too? I'm really curious.
It's basically what we just talked about, right? Like women who have like dated later in life, who are afraid of having sex, who don't know what real sex is because all they've seen is Pornhub, right? And they're like, well, that's not what it's felt like for me once. Or who come with, who've been molested, who've been raped. Like the sexual anxiety could come from anywhere that's preventing you from having a good sexual experience or even taking the first step towards sexuality and exploration. That is what that group is for. Billie Eilish actually talked about this where she was like, sometimes when we get wrapped up in like looking at sex online and through the eyes of other people and not your body. And she talked about how she like spiraled into darker and darker and darker things. And not darker as in just kink, but darker as in it was like, I'll do this because I think it's what I want, but it's not feeling good. And I don't understand why I'm craving this thing that's so disconnected from the physical sensation of pleasure in my body. So this group was essentially designed to help people talk about this in a safe way, talk about the realities of what sex looks like, what consent looks like the vanilla stuff, but also like getting really deep into the same thing about creating an understanding of what sexuality is within the context of where they're stuck.
I mean, again, we can talk about it for so long, but I think you raised a good point about people consuming this type of content. I'll be honest, I was with someone, I don't know, maybe this is just, I think away, maybe it's normal. I get the ick when my partner has to watch porn every single day.
Mm-hmm. And why does that give you the ick? Like, what about that brings up an ick for you?
Because then you're consuming this content and you want to do it. And I think it also gives me the ick because like, why do you have to do that when like, shouldn't your partner be enough? Like, it's healthy to watch it occasionally, but the fact that you need to do it every day, gives me the ick. And then I think you're lusting after these, women that you don't know. And it just feels icky to me. It feels icky to me.
Yeah. And I think it does create a culture of like the obsession with like anal comes from that. It does. It is this unusual obsession of like, I'm a guy, I want to put in every hole possible. And it's like, okay, because it feels the best for you. No, because you just want to like conquer. And it's like, what? And this is why, if anybody's watching this who's a guy, please come to me for therapy. I would love to get more male clients.
You know what? I have a few people I can refer to you, but we don't talk anymore, and for good reason. Okay, Summer, I think this has been such a lovely, pun intended, conversation. You've shared a lot about yourself. Just really quickly, like, listen, I'm 32, I'm in my early 30s, but I'm living my best city girl life. Like I said, I'm a hopeless romantic, and it's really hard for me to find someone that is solid. But in this environment where, like you said, men are afraid to approach because there's a fear of rejection, and women are so turned off because they've had to deal with this, right? Like, let's also not put the blame that like women are standoffish, but they've been put in those environments and conditioned to act that way, which I know you weren't saying. So where do we go from here? What is advice that you can give to both parties?
The really standard for guys, I think, is like, stop listening to male focused podcasts, go to therapy, and go to therapy with a male therapist if, again, female is just too close. Or I would actually recommend you working with a female therapist to kind of create that, a healthier relationship where you can marry back and forth. I would always say that to guys. And I would also tell guys, don't be afraid. You can approach someone and you can be respectful in the way you do it. And if someone rejects you, that's okay. It's not a rejection of you. They don't know you enough to reject you. It's just a gesture that they're rejecting. And I bet someone would really appreciate it. So don't let that hold you back. Be polite in the way that you do it. Be romantic in the way that you do it. Be kind in the way that you do it. And if someone rejects you, don't call them a bitch afterwards. Girls, it's the same thing. Understand your limitations and understand what are your hangups. Because it's more complex than the other advice I'm about to give, which is dating is a game of numbers. A lot of therapists might not say it, but I will say there are too many people, there are too many options. Everyone is trying to look for someone. You have to be in the game. It's exhausting. We hate it. I remember being in it. It was hard, but it's a good time. Reframe it as a positive, fun experience. Don't try to find flaws. Allow space for romance. Allow space for flirt. Don't date the guy who you think you want. Date everyone. My husband is not what I ever expected. We are the polar opposites of existing. And it's not like opposite attracts. For us, it was like we're so different that we complement each other. He is literally, I said to him, I'll never move to like a small town. And half the year I live in a tiny town in Spain. And I don't know how I got there, but I know, and it is a beautiful life we've created. And it wouldn't have happened if I was rigid in what I wanted. But when I opened my heart up to different things, my life changed for the better through him. My life changed because of my own effort, yes. But what my partner showed me that I could never see, because I could only see one thing: date people who you think you won't gel with, and I swear to you, it will surprise you. And don't give up. That's my main thing.
Before we wrap up, if people want to find you and be a client of yours, where can they find you?
If you Google my name, because my name is spelled also really weird, it's Samar, and my last name is Haroon. I have Therapy in Color. That's my practice. You can Google that, and Therapy in Color is spelled with, and it's like the British spelling of color. See, this is where it gets complicated. I have to spell everything out for everyone. If, Mehak, you could be so kind to link my shit in the comments or in the description, you can find me through there. My TikTok is also Therapy in Color. I am on Psychology Today. You can find me there. And I am on Instagram as Therapy in Color Official. So try not to message me on Instagram because that's a social platform. But if you can email me. And you can find me there. That's my quickest way I can get back to you.
We will definitely add your details. And what a lovely start to summer with a conversation with Samar. That's it for this week's episode. If anything hit home, send it to someone who needs to hear it or talk about it in your group chat. But I think most importantly, take care of yourselves in the ways that your younger self never knew how to ask for. And Samar, thank you so much for chatting with us today. And I hope you have a great weekend.
And thank you guys for having me. It was so lovely speaking to you too, Mehak. It was such a vibe.
Lovely is an Immigrantly media production. This episode was produced by Sadia Khan and Shay Yu, written by me, Mehak. Music, sound design, and editing by Lou Raskin. Other music is by Epidemic Sound. Tune in every Friday for more Lovely.